This is a tutorial on our American Ultraviolet UV Cool Cure chamber. The 4 high-intensity 365 nanometer LEDs within this chamber cure UV curing resists, epoxies, coatings, adhesives, and polymers without heating up the substrate, which avoids deformation during curing. The enclosed chamber is vented by a gentle fan. The interior is polished on all surfaces to help distribute UV light evenly throughout the chamber. The machine is very safe to use. The lamps cannot be lit unless the chamber door is fully closed. No special PPE is required other than clean gloves. Clean gloves are very important. Do not touch the touchpad keys with wet or sticky gloves because you will ruin the keys. Do not get any adhesive or wet polymers on the highly polished mirrored interior of the chamber, or it won't be mirrored anymore. Keep a spare pair or two of gloves on hand in case you need them. Remember, wear only clean gloves when you're working with this machine. The main power switch is in the left rear corner of the machine. You'll have to reach around behind it and click it to turn it on. It beeps after you turn it on. Then it goes through a series of self-checks. Then it will say system ready when it's ready to use. To the right of system ready it says 19°C. That's the temperature of the inside of the chamber. There are 3 modes of operation which you can use when you use this machine. The first mode is the cycle on-off mode. This is where you do a timed exposure for different amounts up to 60 seconds. And you can also do a cycled on-off where you program the on times and off times and then the number of cycles. Using multiple cycles, you can make the overall exposure time much longer than 60 seconds. I broke this up into 1A and 1B because it uses 2 different time bases depending on which time range you're working in. If you're working in the range of 6 to 60 seconds, the time base is 1 second. So this is the mode you would use if you wanted to do a timed exposure within that range, 6 to 60 seconds. If you're doing a longer exposure but you want to keep your sample cool, you may want to do multiple cycles. So say you might want to do it a 50% duty cycle where you have 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, and as many cycles as you want of that. If you want to do a really short exposure in the 0.3 to 6 seconds range, the time base for that range is 0.1 second. So say you wanted to do an exposure of 2.6 seconds, you would enter 2.6 for the on time and whatever you want for the off time, and then leave the cycle at 1. If your substrate was super temperature sensitive, what you could do is program the on time to say 1 second and then the off time 6 seconds, and then put as many cycles as you want to add up to the correct number of total seconds. That will keep it very cool. The next mode is continuous mode. To get it into continuous mode, you turn the on time below 0.3 seconds. The lamps will turn on when you hit go or click the foot pedal once, and then they turn back off again when you hit the go button again or tap the foot pedal again. Then the last mode is manual mode. To get into manual mode, you enter an on time that's below 0.3 seconds and then click down one more time to get past the continuous mode until you get to the manual mode. In manual mode, the UV lamps turn on if you push and hold the go button or if you step on and hold the foot switch down. When you release the go button or release the foot switch, then the UV lamps turn off again. It basically works like a momentary on switch when you're in this manual mode. To get out of either manual mode or continuous mode and get back to the normal cycle on/off mode, all you need to do is enter a on time that's longer than 0.3 seconds. So if you're using the time on, time off cycling method with the cycle set to 1, the maximum time you can enter is 60 seconds. This is what it will look like. When you hit the go button or the foot switch, it will turn on for the on time that you programmed, and then it will turn off for the off time that you programmed. Once the off time is over with, it'll just stay off unless you have more cycles entered. If you enter more cycles, then you'll get a pattern like this. It'll go on for the selected on time and then off for the selected off time, and repeat the cycle for as many cycles as you programmed it to do. To start the cycling, you can either tap the foot pedal or you can hit the go button on the front panel, and it will go through the entire number of cycles that you entered and then stop. All of the programming is done with the plus, the minus, and the OK keys. When you hit OK, it first tells you the hours on the LED lamps. If you hit OK for no, it'll just go back to normal again. Hit OK, change setup, yes. Enter OK. Right now the shutter time is 15 seconds. You can lower that or raise it. When you're happy with it, hit OK. Shutter off time is set at 1 second. Number of cycles is set at 1. Reset hours, no. Save changes, yes. Now it's ready to go. Just hit the go button, or you can tap the foot switch and it starts the program running. It counts down in 10th second intervals on the countdown clock. When it's done, it says system ready, and you can go ahead and open up the chamber. Or if you wanted to, you could hit go or hit the foot pedal again, and it'll start the cycle over again. Whenever you open the chamber when it's turned on, you're going to hear this beep warning you that the door interlock has been opened. It won't allow you to turn on the LED lamps if it's open. Also, if you open the door, it automatically aborts whatever cycle was in progress. When you're all done with it, reach around back and turn it off. You probably want to know what the UV intensity is, but do not attempt to use a power meter with this machine. The machine will not work at all unless the chamber door is completely closed. If you try to close the door over a power meter cable, you will just slice the power meter cable in two. I temporarily bypassed the safety interlock to take measurements using both of our power meters. This is what I came up with. Using the black power meter set at 365 nanometer, this machine has 4 365 nanometer lamps in the ceiling. It measured 149 milliwatts per square centimeter in the center and 64 milliwatts per square centimeter in the extreme corners. With the blue meter set at the same 365 nanometers, it showed 89 milliwatts per square centimeter in the center and 30 milliwatts per square centimeter in the extreme corners. So it's definitely brighter in the middle of the chamber. The difference between these two meters is probably due to how narrow the band that it measures with is. I actually tried using the blue power meter with the sensor set to the 405 nanometer position, and it showed a large reading. So that kind of proves that the sensors on the blue meter have a broader response. They're not as narrow as the sensor on the black meter. Since the intensity is almost 3 times as bright in the center, you want to make sure you always put your sample in the same position, preferably in the center, so that you get a consistent exposure each time you use it. Keep in mind that an LED UV light source is a center of the peak at 365 nanometer, but it also spreads from about 370 to 405. And if you're using a material that's designed for 405 nanometer, don't worry, the 365 will cure it anyway. Most UV exposure materials that are designed for 405 nanometer are pretty much broadband and will expose anywhere from 365 to 405. The only times when you may have a problem with 365 instead of 405 is if the material that you're curing absorbs at the 365 level. Then you might need a longer wavelength to be able to expose deeper into the profile of the material. These lamps have a 10,000 hour lifetime. The intensity will only drop off somewhat over a period of years. We may at some point buy a small hockey puck sized battery powered dose meter that we can put in the machine to keep an eye on the relative power output. But again, do not attempt to use one of our power meters with this machine. You'll just chop the cord in half and ruin it. And it will not work anyway unless the door is completely closed. Whenever you use this machine, make sure you go on Badger and enable UV curing system. When you're done using it, then disable it. Since most UV exposures will be pretty short, it's usually probably not necessary to reserve the machine. Thanks for watching.